Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. We're going to discuss both, but let's go ahead and start with the number one ranked UConn Huskies, who hosted Marquette on Saturday in a snowy Hartford, Connecticut, the beautiful XL Center. And listen, I'll be blunt. We previewed this game on Friday's show, and I said I thought UConn was going to win. I said I grew up in Connecticut. I know what a big crowd in Hartford is like. It's going to be electric. It's going to be crazy. It's the hottest ticket for UConn basketball probably in 15 or 20 years. I'm not kidding. Just with the way they're playing, the way Marquette was playing coming in. But I said I liked UConn to win the game. I said, look, Marquette, they're all about speed, quickness, forcing turnovers. And the problem is UConn's got guards that are just as good, just as quick, but they're also 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". And then on top of that, UConn also has bigs down low. So I think I picked UConn to win 79-72, I think was the final score. So I think it's safe to say that I did not see what was coming in Hartford on Saturday afternoon as the number one UConn Huskies beat Marquette 81-53 as a final score. That is a 28-point margin victory over a top 5 team that came into this game on an 8-game win streak. And there is nothing else to say other than that this was a pure destruction, okay? There is no way else to say it. There's no way else to put it. And in a minute, I want to talk about what is actually the way to beat UConn, because I'm not sure that there is one. But where I want to start is with this game itself, because this was, I would argue, relative to the opponent, as complete a victory as I have seen all season, okay? Just look, and I know people get mad when you quote from the box score, oh, you didn't watch the game, you're just box score stealing, you're just stealing stuff from the box score. It's like, I get it, but I don't want to just be the box score guy, but I think sometimes the box score tells the whole story, and I do think it tells it in this case. In this game for UConn, remember, these are a pair of top 5 teams coming into this game. Let's just go ahead and look at the box score. UConn on the season, or UConn in this game, excuse me, shoots 48% from the field, 37% from 3. They hold Marquette to 37% shooting themselves, 21% from behind the three-point arc. They out-rebounded Marquette by, what is this, 18 rebounds. They were plus 18 on the boards. They had 18 offensive rebounds. They had a bunch of block shots, and it's also worth noting, UConn runs one of the prettiest offenses in all of college basketball, 24 assists on 29 made field goals. And so when you just talk about a destruction, just listen to that. 48% shooting from the field, 37% shooting from 3, holding the opponent to 36%, 21% from 3. Oh, by the way, plus 18 on the boards. It was insane. It was a demolition. And I'm here to say this. First of all, I do think because Saturday was the first real Saturday without football, it did feel like a lot of people that are just getting into college hoops. My phone was blowing up during that game. Like, Torres, the Huskies are so freaking good. I can't believe how good they are. They're dominant. They're incredible. And it felt like America, I think it felt like America appreciated just how good this team is. And I think they saw for the first time. It's one thing for UConn to play on a random Tuesday night. It's one thing for them to play on a Saturday night when there's an NFL game or major college football, or a Saturday afternoon where there's bowl games or whatever. It felt like America was locked in on this game, and America came away saying, my goodness, Torres, that team is a freaking wagon. And when I look at this team, listen, first of all, we talked about it on last Wednesday's show. Because UConn is so good, coming into this game, 23-2 on a 13-game win streak, I do believe that because they've been so dominant, the media has just kind of stopped talking about them because they've run out of creative ways to discuss them. I truly believe that in my heart of hearts. But I bring it up because at this point, media, you cannot gloss over UConn. Because I'm not saying that they're guaranteed to win the national championship. I'm not saying that they're going undefeated from here. I'm not saying that they will never lose a game. But at this point, they're not just good. They are quite literally historically dominant in many categories, okay? First off, I think this is very important to note. They're coming into this game, they had a 13-game Big East win streak. I consider myself a little bit of a historian of UConn basketball. Anybody who's a UConn fan will know what I'm talking about when I say this. I think about all the great teams of the UConn heyday. 99, they win a title. 04, they win a title. 11, they win a title, all in the Big East. 2023, they won a title last year. You know that coming into this game, that was their first 13-game Big East win streak since the 95-96 season. That was Ray Allen was on the team at that point. That was one of the great teams that didn't end up winning a title. Ray Allen, Duron Sheffer, who got drafted, Travis Knight, who got drafted, played in the league for a long time. And so to think about the fact that UConn has won 4 titles in the Big East since then. Rip Hamilton was never on a 13-game win streak in the Big East at any point. Same with Emeka Okafor, same with Charlie Villanueva, same with Rudy Gay, same with Kemba Walker, same with last year's team. It shows you how incredible this team is. By the way, I saw this stat after the win against Marquette. How about this? You know that UConn, right now this second, just became the first team in Big East history to win 3 straight games by 25-plus points. What? 3 straight games by 25-plus points. And I know that 2 of the games were against DePaul and were against Georgetown, 2 worst teams in the league. But at the same time, a couple things. One, everybody's losing on the road to bad teams, including, by the way, Purdue, which we'll get to in a minute. But beyond that, it's not just that they're losing to bad teams. It's that the fact is, even if you want to say, okay, well, the first 2 teams weren't very good. The third team was a top 5 team. You beat them by 25-plus. But on top of that, and this is the part that I think is important, think about all the great teams and the great players in the Big East. Patrick Ewing's Georgetown teams, Chris Mullins' St. John's teams, Ray Allen's UConn teams, all the Syracuse teams. No one has ever won 3 straight games in league play by 25-plus points. And on top of that, let's take it a step further. This was also the biggest margin of victory ever between 2 top 5 opponents from the same league, okay? So it's one thing you catch somebody in Maui early in the season, they don't know what's going to hit them. But in league play, no team has ever won by that many points against another top 5 team. So this team is dominant. This team is historic. And I'll be blunt. You know what the crazy part is? I don't know how you beat this team, because the crazy part about this UConn team, and I've talked about it, and maybe you've listened to the show the last couple of weeks, and maybe you haven't as we've transitioned to college hoops. But I bring it up because with UConn, they really haven't had their full complement of guys all year. Donovan Clingan was hurt in the preseason, didn't really have preseason. Then he comes back. Then Steph Castle gets hurt. Then he gets healthy. Clingan gets hurt again. Then Clingan gets healthy again, and Alex Karaban gets hurt. So this is really the first time they've had all their pieces all kind of operating at a high level. And when you look at this UConn team, the question is, how do you beat them? So my whole thing is this. I'm not trying to be UConn homer guy, okay? But I'm just going to run through some stats, and you tell me. And by the way, I texted a Big East coach. We're going to talk about what he told me in a minute. So first off, here are just the facts on UConn. How do you beat UConn? Well, for starters, they're a top 5 team in offensive efficiency, according to KenPom. Don't love always quoting stats, but we need to for this segment. Top 5 offense. Number 11 defensive efficiency. Now, that's deceptive because their numbers are much better once Donovan Clingan came back. They were not good when Donovan Clingan was out. Then he came back, and they have been incredible since. So the defense is top 15. The offense is top 5. On top of that, here's some other stats just so you have. Rebounding percentage. In other words, the percentage of rebounds your teams gets. Top 5 in the country. Assist to turnover ratio, top 5 in the country. They shoot 37% from 3. They turn the ball over only 10 times per game. And so I just want to ask you, you all are basketball fans. You want to be listening if you weren't. So here's my question. Right now, this second. If a team is a top 5 offense, a top 15 defense that's much better when they're fully healthy, they're an elite 3-point shooting team, an elite rebounding team, and they don't turn the ball over, how do you beat them? I don't know. And so it was funny because on Sunday morning, I actually texted a buddy of mine who used to coach in the Big East. He scouted UConn, done everything, whatever. And I texted him, I said, what do you do? And he said, Aaron, I don't know if there's an answer. He said, maybe you throw a bunch of different defenses at him. He plays zone 1 possession, man-to-man, full court this, half court that, da-da-da-da. Try to get him out of their rhythm. Maybe you try to really slow things down. Remember, UCLA did that a few years ago against Gonzaga in the Final Four when they were such a wagon, but Gonzaga wasn't this type of defensive team. And so he said, that's really the only idea that I have. And what he said was, and this was the part that tripped me up. He said, and listen, to be clear, nobody's ever rooting for injuries, but he said, if your starting point guard, Tristan Newton, and your starting shooting guard, Cam Spencer, are healthy, I don't know how you beat them. Because UConn's already proven they can beat really good teams without the other three starters. And so you don't want injuries ever. But he said, barring an injury, I don't know how you beat them. And so I look at this, the layout of this season. Now, look, a couple things with UConn. Still have tough games ahead. They still have to play at Creighton this week. They play at Marquette the final week of the season. They play at Providence the final week of the season. So it's not as though they're out of the weeds. They still have Villanova at home this week. College game day will be there. But I just bring it up because you have Big East coaches saying, Torres, I don't have an answer. I don't know how to do it. Now, I understand schedule will still be tough. I understand that it's a one-game tournament. Anything can happen. I've seen teams that look unbeatable lose plenty in this tournament. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm not going to give people heartbreak, but there are teams that look invincible in late February, early March, and come tournament time, they don't end up doing it. But right now, my big question is, and by the way, here's the other thing that's important on this. I know I told you the bracket reveal didn't matter, but if UConn continues to stay on the one line and they're trending, it would take something catastrophic for them not to end up as a one seed. If they go to the East region, that's the other factor people aren't talking about. They would play in Brooklyn and then Boston to go to the Final Four. I think John Rothstein tweeted it. They won't have to get on an airplane in the NCAA tournament until a potential trip to the Final Four. So you have the best team playing basically 4 straight home games to get to the Final Four. Good freaking luck. I'm not saying they can't be beaten. I'm just saying there are people in college basketball that don't know how to do it.